What's up, guys? Josh from Strength Side. This is a full body stretching, mobility, movement routine. Someone asked me the other day, Josh, do you have a master stretching routine you'd recommend doing every day? Why? Yes, I do. It's called the Daily Practice. This is it. You can download it for free. So guys, since stretching can be a little dry and boring, let's make it fun. Let's bring some sexy into this. And we begin with hip rotation. So just like this guy in the video, you're going to be rotating the leg inward and outward. Now, try to keep the pelvis in a pretty stable position here so we're not swinging the hips open. That is going to make a lot of the rotation come from the hip, and that's what we want as we rotate outward into external rotation. We rotate inward into internal rotation. Go ahead and switch legs as this dude just did in the video. Hip rotations are a great way to start opening up the hips and to also get us ready for some of the other stretches that we're going to do later in the routine. Probably above all else is how cool you look when you do hip rotations, to be on the ground flailing your legs around in this kind of provocative seated position. Yeah. Okay, now after doing single leg rotation, we're going to do double leg rotation, and now we're going to let the hips move. So we're going to rotate the hips so we can get those knees down to the ground or somewhere close. So one leg will be an external rotation, one leg will be an internal rotation. And boy, after doing those single leg rotations, these are going to feel very, very nice on your hips. So what is this white stool doing here in the background? Well, we're about to find out right now because we're moving on to our first upper body stretch. This is going to be a standing downward dog stretch. So you can use a countertop or a wall, anything works. You're going to reach the hands onto that surface, and then you're going to step your legs back and you're going to press your chest and head downward. Now, I'm keeping my knees bent in the beginning here to keep my tailbone tucked. We want to keep posterior tilt in that pelvis, and then that allows us to get all of this extension from the mid, back, and the T-spine, right? So we want to feel like that area between the shoulder blades is really opening up here. And now, of course, maybe you're not able to get into this as deep as I am. That's why we're doing it. Don't forget that. So just all the force that should be going down in your body is just pressing those armpits and chest downward while the hips stay up. That's going to be achieving that good stretch through the mid-back. So truth be told, this is my second time filming this because the first time I forgot to grab something for my knee on this stretch and I damn near blew out a kneecap. Just kidding, it was just a little bit rough on the knees. But now we're going into some front hip opening. In the daily practice, you have a few different options here. I'm going to start in a normal half kneeling hip flexor stretch position. I'm trying to tuck my tailbone, keep my torso hollow, and squeeze my right glute. Now I'm going to pick up that back foot and pull that heel towards my butt, but I'm trying not to let that affect my hollow position. So this is just capturing the quad now more. And you guys are smart. You guys know you need to stretch the front of the hip, right? Well, if you don't know, all the sitting that we do is really just tightening up that front of the hip. So I'm usually having anyone that I work with do some front of the hip stretching almost daily because it's just needed with all the stuff that we put our hips through these days. I'm holding each stretch for about a minute, and that's what my timer that I'm balancing on the front of the thigh. Yeah, no, that's pretty smooth right there, balancing it on the thigh. That is set for a minute. But if these are feeling good, I suggest going 90 seconds, even up to 2 minutes. Like I said, if it feels okay for you, if you're in a version that you can sustain that 2 minutes for. So now hopping over onto the other side, I'm doing the same thing. I start in my hip flexor stretch position. I start opening that front of the hip this side I didn't feel like balancing the timer. And now I pull my heel up and I'm into this yoga quad stretch, capturing more quad, and this is quite a bit on the balance here as well. So if you are enjoying this stretching routine, like I mentioned before, you can download it for free. It'll be the first link in the description, and I have instructional videos for each exercise, so you can get a little bit more detailed cues on what you're doing. But no pressure. If you don't want to download it, you can simply follow along with this video, and that is great too. So you can throw your pad or sweatshirt out of the way now, and we're gonna hop into some shoulder extension stretching. This is some of my favorite stretching because I think that most people just miss out on this. This is something that we just simply don't get much of. And that's the ability to bring the shoulder into extension and bring the arms behind you. So this is called the lounge chair. I'm in a seated position with all fours down, and then I'm going to press my hands down into the ground, pull my shoulder blades back, and shift my hips forward. Now right now, I'm holding my hips off the ground. That's a little bit more intense. If you're a beginner to this, you can set the hips down. This is gonna feel really, really good on the shoulder. You're gonna feel some stretching in the front and in the chest. It might be a little intense if you've never done it before. And now I'm going into the harder variation, which is essentially the same thing, but I'm driving my hips upward. This is called a crab press, or some people refer to it as a reverse plank, but I'm trying to get